Apple and Goldman Sachs are going their separate ways. This is MacVoices. This edition of MacVoices is supported by Incogni. Don't let companies exploit your personal information. Visit incogni.com/MacVoices and find out how to protect yourself. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. It is Tuesday night, and that means this is MacVoices Live. We do this every Tuesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, whatever time that is, wherever you are. We have friends in the chat room at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV, and we would love to have you come there, because if you do, then we consider you a friend, and then we want you back every Tuesday. So there is an obligation that comes with it, but come on in. The water is just fine. He says, as the wind chill was dropping outside. This is kind of a weird one because, well, first of all, I want to say we're back on YouTube tonight. We did a little experiment last week, learned a lot of things. We'll be repeating that at some point in some way in the future. But for now, we're back to the comfort of YouTube, and we'll go from there.
I mean, Zoom.
Or what did I say? I said YouTube.
You said YouTube.
Yeah. YouTube will always be on YouTube, but we are back to Zoom tonight, and we will be experimenting with the other software at a future date. This was sort of a weird time because the Thanksgiving weekend here in the U.S. is always kind of a slow time for Mac news, and it seemed like we might have to just go back and look for stories, and then everything exploded. So we have a lot of things to talk about. We're going to try to march through as many as we can tonight in the time allotted and go from there. So with that, we're going to go around the horn and see who's here, and then we'll get to it. Back in his normal seat in the seat of the angels, Mr. David Ginsburg is here. David, good to have you.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to this good conversation, and hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving.
Yeah, and we do understand that you have a new camera thanks to Web Bixby.
Yes, this is an Insta360 link. I gave in. The Black Friday sale, the price was hard to resist, so here I am. So now, but I got some work to do. But now with lighting, it's obviously a lot different with this camera. So a little dark behind me, but we'll tweak it.
Maybe if you talk to Web, you can borrow a quilt.
Yeah, maybe. That probably would brighten it up more.
Brian Flanigan-Arthurs is here sporting a red tie tonight. I guess, is that festive red for Christmas, Brian?
Yeah, trying to get into the holiday spirit. It's after Thanksgiving. It's time to get into the holiday spirit. Okay, mark that down. Brian says, get in the holiday spirit, or else. Speaking of quilts, Web Bixby is here. Web, it's great to have you.
Chuck, good to be here. And yes, this is another one of the quilts that my wife's made that I like to take the opportunity to show off her talent every Tuesday. So thank you for letting me do this.
Hey, I'm so glad you do, Webb. Every time you bring a new one, I'm honestly amazed at the intricacy of, in this one, especially because it's lighter colors. Not only can you see the designs, but you can also see the textures in it.
Yeah.
And so it's just absolutely stunning.
Thank you.
So,
I'll pass that on.
Yeah, does she sell those? If she doesn't, she should.
She really makes them as kind of a hobby, and she donates them. There's a hospice center that she's very familiar with, and a lot of them go there. So, in fact, the one that you talked about a couple of weeks ago that you really liked, I was trying to pull it together for you. She gave it away. So.
No, it was at the Royal. The Lord Bixby one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yes. Sure. No. Happy to do it. Well.
Hey, I see Ben Roethig's here.
Yeah, he is.
Ooh.
He is, and at least that's the rumor. He looks a little more like Steve Jobs tonight.
Yes. It is currently 18 degrees. So I decided to do my Jobs cosplay because I'm kind of freezing.
Okay.
Hey, right behind you, 15.
Well, Ben, if you can, I can't quite tell if it's just probably the light. Yeah, it is just the light. I was going to say, if you just get a little bit of a white collar, you could be, Reverend Ben.
Father Ben. In the name of the Jobs, the Waz, and the Holy Macintosh.
I'm not sure.
Oh my gosh.
Out of control already. We're only a few minutes in. Eric Bolden is here with a new bird picture. Eric, it's good to see you.
The Blue Jays were nice and active today. I thought, I'd bring one along and see what happens.
I assume that you shot that picture.
Yeah. That was from this morning.
Is that an iPhone shot or?
No, it's from a Canon, one of their mirrorless cameras.
Okay, I would think so. With the zoom, you would almost need that, but still, it's it's a gorgeous picture.
But it's all processed on an iPad, so
okay. Last but absolutely not least, Mark Fuccio has joined us. Mark, we missed you last week, and you have another, as always, interesting background.
Yes, I was pondering what I would do for today's background, and mid to late afternoon, word broke out that Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett's partner at Berkshire Hathaway, passed away today at 99 years old, just 6 or 5 weeks short of his 100th birthday. So,
wow,
I figured it's great to commemorate him. He had a brilliant mind. He had all sorts of interesting careers as a lawyer, as a real estate developer, as an investor. But I think he's probably charmed his way into my heart and others. By condensing worldly wisdom down into simple one-line aphorisms. And he will be missed.
Yeah, I guess 99 is a pretty good run.
It is an excellent run. We should all be so lucky.
Yeah, exactly. And if memory serves, I mean, he was in reasonably good health, I think, pretty much the whole way through.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was a surprise. I mean, I heard an interview. A couple guys, spent a couple hours with him in September. So I don't know exactly what happened, but it's a surprise. But at that age, it's your life expectancy is not doesn't go on forever. And I think one of his best quotes is something to the effect that if you want to get something, live your life and act like you deserve to get that something.
Words to live by. Hey, I thought Mark was last but not least, but now Mark Fuccio, excuse me, Jim Rea is last but not least. He just popped into the show. Jim, welcome. It's good to see you.
Sorry, I'm late.
That's all right. You're allowed. Glad you were able to make it.
Me too. What'd I miss?
We just finished the introductions. We're launching. Oh yeah, and Ben was promoted to father. Father Ben. Yeah, Ben was promoted to Ben. You want to do your thing?
Oh, that kind of father.
Yes, high priest of the Mac.
Yeah. He gave us blessings before we start. So, which
I thought you were saying you had a kid.
Wow.
Huh.
Yeah.
My cat may count.
So did he do an exorcism of OS 10 bugs or iOS bugs?
Not sure he's quite to that level yet.
Mostly just use of Windows.
Well, the first thing, we're going to start out with a story that just broke just a little bit before we started recording this session. And that is that Apple apparently is the one to start the process of walking away from the Goldman Sachs partnership for Apple Card. And the details, I threw one link in the chat. I'll have a couple others in the show notes, but we don't know a lot more other than at least what I read. It looks like it'll be a 15-month or so process, 12 to 15 months. And there are no indications about what the future of Apple Card or the Apple Savings account or any of that is. I think what's going to be really interesting is to see how quick an exit there is of money from the Apple Savings account to anywhere else, and what that's going to do to Goldman if those kind of numbers are material to them. Anybody else have any strong feelings about this or any prognostications?
I think they're gonna exit out gracefully. That's what Apple usually does. My concern is just who's going to take this over. I mean, Apple obviously wants to have a quality partner. Some of the suggestions that were in that article today from Wall Street Journal, Synchrony is kind of one of the more stranger ones because that's more of a lower income credit scores and store credit cards and things like that. So I just find that hard to believe that Apple would even consider somebody like that. And of course, they said that Goldman had talked to American Express, but I think American Express sees it the same way. I mean, Goldman wanted out because they're losing billions of dollars on this deal, and it's nice that they're agreeing to get out of it because it was I think that was supposed to go to like 2029, so that was quite a few years left on this. So yeah, I'm kind of disappointed. I mean, I've been very happy Apple Card customer. I have a lot of I have some money into a savings account as well, and it was super nice for them what they did. But yeah, that's definitely gonna be interesting.
Mark?
Okay, yeah. So rumors of this and Goldman's dissatisfaction have been percolating out there for 3, maybe 6 months, and it looks like Apple maybe is seizing the initiative in this regard. But to David's point about Synchrony, from what I can surmise is that Apple selected Goldman as a partner. Goldman obviously wanted to get into the commercial credit business, but it seems that they've had maybe a bad run of their ability just to judge the credit worthiness of customers, and that's the only thing I can speculate about. In the link in Apple News to the Wall Street Journal article, there's a graphic that shows the increase in the amount of consumer debt that Goldman has, because apparently they've done consumer credit card deals with both Apple and GM, General Motors. So I would think that if they're losing money, it can't be because of fees and transaction volumes. It must be because they have loan losses.
Yeah, credit losses. Yeah.
Yeah, because as the bank, so Apple credit card, has an Apple logo on it, but Apple is not the bank. Much like any of us have, a Costco or a university or any other credit cards that Visa, MasterCard will issue credit cards and co-branded cards, but it's ultimately there's a bank behind it, and there's the bank that collects the majority of the fees, and they're on the hook for bad debts. So I can only surmise if Goldman is losing money, it's one of two reasons. Number one, maybe they massively overstaffed the operation, so they're losing money because they have way more employees than they need. Or number two, most likely, they're losing debt because they've issued cards to people of insufficient credit worthiness. And I think in that regard, Synchrony may have a leg up in ability to judge and experience in judging and discriminating against and discriminating, not in a bad word, but more in the sense of its alternate meaning of differentiating and categorizing people into different credit worthiness and increasing or lowering their debt limit as appropriate. So it's unfortunate it didn't work out. I think we'll have to see the fate of the Apple savings account. Because that's something that I don't know if it's all or none proposition, but I imagine Goldman would love to hold on to those billions of dollars of saving deposits. But we'll have to see what the windup is. And this is a story that's breaking. And as Chuck said in the opening, it may take up to 15 months before everything gets transitioned and fully understood.
Ben, you want in?
Yeah. The fact that we're not seeing any indications towards a partner could be telling here, and it could mean one of two things. Number one, Apple would be starting its own internal bank to handle the card. The other option, since we have not seen the card pop up outside the United States, Apple could simply just have decided it does not want to do the card anymore.
This edition of MacVoices is supported by Incogni at incogni.com/MacVoices. Don't let companies exploit your personal information. It seems like every morning there's a new data breach reported. According to the 2021 Annual Data Breach Report by Identity Theft Resource Center, there were 68% more breaches in 2021 than the year before. Hundreds of data brokers are out there aggregating your personal information. That can and does include names and aliases, social security numbers, login credentials, location history, online activities, and more. Incogni reaches out to data brokers on your behalf, requests your personal data removal, and deals with any objections from their side. And this isn't just a one-time thing. Since many data brokers collect your personal information again after some time, Incogni makes repeated, ongoing removal requests so that your annual subscription protects you all year long. The process is simple and straightforward, as is the reporting back to you. Incogni is available risk-free for 30 days, meaning anyone can try it out for themselves and get a full refund if they aren't happy with the service. Get this exclusive deal at incogni.com/MacVoices. It's risk-free with Incogni's 30-day money-back guarantee. That's Incogni, incogni.com/MacVoices. Incogni.com/MacVoices. Thanks to Incogni for supporting MacVoices.
If you look at it, this whole thing, the Apple Card, yes, it had much fanfare about it, but it was basically an Apple overlay on top of MasterCard as the back-end, processing network, with Goldman Sachs as a bank, that obviously made a lot of concessions to Apple because they wanted to get into the consumer credit business. So internationally, you have the same problem with banks in every other country. So I don't know if Apple would really want to get into it, because in the US you have 50 states plus different territories, and traditionally it looks like Apple would partner with companies, initially with AT&T when they launched the iPhone, that they would partner with companies that have the expertise to handle all the fragmented customer and market relationships.
Barry in the chat room says, in my case, the Apple Card makes it seem easier to pay off balances without interest accruing. I wonder if Goldman Sachs isn't getting as much interest income in addition to all the other possible reasons Mark outlined. And that's a really interesting point, Barry, because you're right. It does seem to be easy because you kind of know what's going there. You feel like you're earning something that you can actually visualize, if you will. So I wonder if you're right. If an Apple Card balance is not as lucrative as maybe some of the others. And I have no idea what the interest rate is on the Apple Card because I pay off my balance. So I never really pay attention. Yeah. I don't know if it's super high or not.
It's higher now because of the rates.
Yeah.
But remember, they also do the daily credit balance. And I was wondering about that. That's a lot of transactions that they're doing every day. That could be an expense load that we may not be taking into account. The other thing, no, keep going. Something slipped my mind. I'll come back to it.
Well, to your point, Webb, and I'd be interested if anybody knows. I mean, my sense is that all this stuff is completely automated. So, is there any cost or any significant cost associated with generating those daily balances and all?
There's still a daily operating cost, and aside from just the interest that they're paying, there's a transactional cost. Now, granted, it's automated, but remember, Goldman was new to this game, so they're probably developing it as they went. and the other thing that we talked about pre-show that we need to keep in mind was that we've always heard that Goldman wanted out. We've heard that for weeks, and today it came out that Apple maybe did the initiating of saying, yeah, maybe we should end this relationship and go another way. Ben, you started talking about. Could Apple start their own bank? Apple's big enough; they could start their own bank if they wanted to. There's no doubt about that. And they have the tendency to go out and hire the best people to get it going. That being said, starting a bank is hard. It's very, very complex. You're going to have to put up a lot of reserves for it, and that's just capital, which, Apple has billions of dollars in capital in retained earnings. Mm-hmm. But do they want to take a portion of that and reserve it for this? I as a consumer, I like my Apple Card. I like what it does. I hope it doesn't go away, but I don't think that your suggestion, Ben, that it could be dissolving. Apple saying, yeah, maybe it's not as great as we thought it was, and moved on. I think Apple's also going to be a very, very difficult partner to work with. I think that's one of the things that Goldman found out. Very demanding. They want to do in the 30-day cycle. The Wall Street Journal article talked about credit card companies like to spread that load out for the customer service demands. I've had a couple issues with my credit card where there was a mysterious charge on my card. And they were very quick to offer me that credit without by taking my word on it. I'm going to say very much like Amazon. Amazon's been very good about I got something, they'll just take it back and not question it. I think Goldman's been very good about that, or Apple's forced Goldman to be very good about that. But I think there's expense to that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But I have to wonder, Webb, and I'm not asking you to reveal anything, but I would expect that you have a decent credit rating, and that maybe that would contribute to how easily you got a charge removed. Because I know I've had situations where, because of my payment history and my credit rating, that I've had things reversed or changed or removed. When something off key happened.
Yeah.
Because they go, they look at it, they say, oh yeah, okay, we're fine. So, and there's no brag or anything like that. It's just, if you have a good credit rating and if you have a good payment history, they want to keep you coming back to their card or using their card, even if they're not making money on you, they're making money on the merchant account.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
I had the same experience. I mean, when I would ask for a credit, and there wouldn't be any question.
Craig in the chat room says, chances are the demographics of Apple Card users probably have better credit and payoff balances too.
Right.
Yeah, agreed.
Actually, I
would take that bet.
I kind of agree with Mark here. Why that has traditionally been true. The iPhone and iPad side has gone a lot down market than where Apple has traditionally been.
Mark, you didn't agree with Craig's comment.
Yeah, because I think traditionally Apple user base, when they were selling a couple million Macs a year, everything has exploded dramatically, and so I'm sure there's way more people who have iPhone and ability to have an Apple credit card, but as Craig points out in sort of in the YouTube chat, that he says not all iPhone users have Apple credit cards. I'm sure that's true, but I still think there's probably way more iPhone users across the income distribution than the traditional Mac user base, going back 20 or 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
But again,
I think this
is all speculation, right? It's only Goldman and Apple know what's going on and why Goldman is getting out of the business.
Yeah.
I think the Apple demographics are going to be at the higher end. we haven't seen any stories lately, but for a while there was all these stories about how Apple took like 90% of the profits in the phone business. It's still a higher end phone. The people that are looking to save, they buy Samsungs.
But Jim, you're forgetting Apple buys back phones and they sell them out so you can get used phones at much lower
am I saying,
prices.
Everyone who buys an iPhone is a millionaire? No, I'm not saying that, but I'm sure it skews higher. Some of the car companies have indicated that too. I think the Ford GM, when saying they were going to keep CarPlay, he's like, the iPhone customers, those are the ones we want. I don't know what GM's smoking, so they don't apparently agree with that. But no, Ford is not getting out. GM's the one's getting out.
GM, right?
I wonder if back end companies for cards don't change fairly regularly, and it's just not a story except Apple's involved. My guess is 3 years from now, people that are Apple Card users will be like, nothing happened. I've still got my card. I'm still using it. It still works the same. Goldman Sachs isn't involved. Were they involved? I didn't know that. I think somebody else will pick it up. The Wall Street Journal story had a article that mentioned that what was the company that was Synchrony Financial is looking into it, so maybe they will, or somebody will. I mean, come on, you can't make money off of Apple credit cards. That's I mean, Goldman Sachs, they never did it before. Sounds like they flubbed it getting into that business, but there are lots of companies that are very experienced in this business and could do it in their sleep. And I can't imagine that Apple is going to, it seems like that would be a big black eye on Apple if their card was to go out, disappear. I don't think so. Apple's not going to, even if it lost money, I think they would make sure it continued.
Well, how many? There's other precedent. How many people here are Costco members?
Yeah, I remember.
So do you remember what was it? It used to be an Amex, and about 5 or 6 years ago, according to memory, they changed, and Amex didn't renew. They wanted more, and Costco went and moved everybody over to a city.
That was kind of wasn't that a very different thing, because that wasn't a Costco card. It was what card. Unlike almost every other vendor, Costco would only take one kind of card. And,
right. It's branded as a Costco card,
And no.
Yes, it's branded as a Costco.
It was both.
They may have had a Costco card, but you didn't have to use it.
Right.
So
you had the choice of getting that credit card or not.
Yeah,
but they used to only take them.
You pay cash, or you take a Costco branded Amex card, and now there's a Costco branded Visa card. Through
they would take any Costco, any Amex card. Did not have to be acquired through Costco. I can
now
guarantee
Visa.
that. Right now they take Visa.
Yeah,
so
Jim, I agree with you. That's the way it was.
Yeah, it is.
But Walmart right now doesn't take Apple Pay. And for a while, Sam's Club, I think, was very limited in what it would take. I can't remember.
But this is a whole different topic of what payment method a retailer would take. That's a completely different topic than who's the bank backing a credit card.
Yeah, it is. It is.
So the Apple Card is a MasterCard. Any place that takes MasterCard will take it.
No. It's not a MasterCard.
MasterCard
and Visa are payment networks. All they do is they facilitate a transaction between a customer who has a card issued by a bank and the vendor.
But
Discover and
Amex
are Discover Card and Amex are actually both their own cards processing network and banks. But Apple, when they launched, they went with Discover Card. So the whole Apple Pay is an infrastructure on overlay on top of that.
Right.
And there's hundreds of banks in the Visa network. So
the Apple Card is on the Discover network.
No, it's Visa.
It's MasterCard
the
network.
Apple Card,
MasterCard.
the Apple Card.
That's what I said at the beginning. Was
the bank
MasterCard.
is Goldman Sachs, and the transactions are occurring over the MasterCard, infrastructure.
Which is what I said at the beginning of this, and everybody yelled at me.
Okay, so what could happen is that Apple could just move from Goldman Sachs as the bank to somebody else that services the MasterCard network.
Right. Yeah, they
Or
could use
feeds
Bank
the
of
Master,
America
or they move to
Citibank
another bank on the Visa network and still have an Apple Card, because I think what most people care about is it says Apple Card, instead of Joe's garbage dump down the block, car recycling and barbecue card. It's so easy to get a co-branded card. That's part of the business model of these companies. Obviously, Apple wanted more in terms of, instead of having this is going back, as Webb was saying, to the Wall Street Journal article, instead of having rolling statements that go out throughout the month, Apple wanted all the statements to go out once a month, which caused this huge surge of, on the first, couple days of the month in terms of customer demand and overload. So in that regard, Apple made big demands, and Goldman rolled over and maybe didn't understand quite exactly what the implications were, but certainly other, more established, credit banks will know that. So we'll have to see what happens. And, if to Ben's point, if there's no other bank out there that wants to partner with Apple, I doubt Apple will go into business themselves. I think the Apple Card may silently die, and then we just have Apple Pay, where, as you can today, you can plug in any card and use it as your transaction.
Yeah, or we go back to something like the old co-branded Barclays.
Yeah, Barclays. Right?
Yeah. The high-stakes financial breakup between Apple and Goldman Sachs generated lots of discussion, and that spills over into the next edition of MacVoices. We also touch on the name-drop misinformation that was being distributed by police departments. That's next time on MacVoices. I'm Chuck Joyner, and I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you MacVoices each month. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.